Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Soulful, where our guest is Mallory Rothstein.
Hey.
Hello, I'm Janet.
I'm Nikia.
Toya.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me today.
This is our lovely guest, Mallory Rothstein, affectionately known as Mal. So how are you ladies doing today?
I'm good, other than my kids screaming in the background.
Very good.
Okay, so what have you been working on, Nikia, today?
Today I worked on a spreadsheet. I am trying to build a compliance KPI dashboard with conditional formatting. So that was my all day project.
Oh, that was intense. Well, today I did some lead generation calls. In addition, got ready for a StreamYard live event tomorrow, and then did some additional just admin work within my own business. Toya, what you work on today?
I just like to say I don't know what Nikia was talking about, KPIs and spread. Ooh, that made my head hurt. But I enjoyed. Said Janet.
She was doing alphabet soup.
I know some. It was a nerdy situation. That's all I can say. But I enjoyed doing the production run through with you this morning for our client.
Yes. Me and Toya is building our own little production business.
Yes.
She the producer, I'm the coordinator. And Mallory, tell us what you worked on today.
Yeah, so I went to an administrative professionals networking kind of mixer, which was really fun. There's about, I think, 42 people, and I got to speak to maybe 5 or 6 of them around the world. So that was very fun. And then for my team, we have an all hands coming up where we have everyone come together. And so me and a couple of the other admins are working on a fun video as the intro and trying to get some of our leads to participate. And now we're going to surprise them with our own video in the beginning, kind of roasting them and then going into their videos. So I've been working on the script for this. That is really only a 20-second thing, but I want it to be perfect. And I want to make my acting debut for my team to see that I can act and be silly. So that's what I was doing all day today.
Well, I'm silly on a natural, so don't look at me, okay?
You should be, the host of it. You should be the one that's coming in.
Girl, we'll get in trouble. Well, this is the internet. Oh yeah, we can do it.
That sounds so fun. Can we see that finished product when it's done? That sounds cool.
We might be able to. I have to see with my team, but you can at least see my video for sure.
Yeah, that is so cool. Awesome. Yes.
Well, let me tell you about this lovely individual that we have with us today, affectionately known as Mal. Mallory Rothstein is a woman of faith who is on a mission to help teens and assistants level up on their personal development journey to fulfill their purpose and have greater business impact. She founded Learn What Matters and more than an admin to be able to fulfill that mission. In 2016, Mallory joined Google as an administrative business partner in search ads. Since then, she supported 20 plus leaders in search ads and people operations. Last year, she became the TEDx speaker and already booked another TEDx in 2022 because she is someone always full of ideas worth sharing. When Mallory now resides in Central Florida, she's a New Jersey native, graduating from Freeland High School and Stony Brook University, and she continues to be an active alumni. Welcome, everyone, Mallory Rothstein.
Thank you.
Well, glad to hear.
And I just yesterday became a first-time plant mom, so I'm very excited. I have one in the bag. Yeah, 3 plants. I told myself it's got to be plants, a pet, and then kids. That's what I'm telling myself. Right? I got to first keep the plants alive because I've never been able to take care of plants, but I'm getting serious this time.
I like the progression. Yeah.
Okay, now you're asking me a little bit too much. So I have a corn plant. I think one is like succulents, and then this other one, I think it's Chinese evergreen, something like that. Yeah, that's what the card says. So, but what that actually means in terms of watering them and stuff, I have to still do my homework.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, welcome to the plant. Welcome.
Thanks.
I know, what was the thing, if you put it near the sun and you see how it leans, it kind of tells you how it's forming. Don't ask me.
Oh, wow. That's some good advice because I have no idea. So I have a lot of friends though that really are teaching me some stuff in the last couple of hours. So I'm having fun with this.
Okay. So tell us about this journey at Google.
Yeah, so it's funny because I came to Google and I actually told a lot of the people that I was interviewing with, I'm probably going to only be here 2 years, but I'm not going to be your longest admin, but I'm going to be your best one. And so I had really only thought that I was going to be at Google for 2 years. I've now been here for over 4 years. And I've really enjoyed, my time at Google in a lot of different ways. It's not always been like the easiest ride, but I've really enjoyed what I've gotten to do. And so I've stayed, and I've specifically stayed an administrative business partner. And I think this is really something that a lot of people don't realize is they think that I just have had to stay in this role, but I've chosen to stay in this role. I've been offered other opportunities if I've wanted to interview, and I've said no, because I love being an administrative business partner. I feel as though what I have access to, what the opportunities I've gotten have really fulfilled me, and that I thought other roles couldn't. And so, yeah, it's been a pretty cool ride. Like I said, I supported over 20, probably now 25 executives between people operations and search ads. And I've really loved a lot of the executives that I've gotten to support as well. And like I said, it's not always been, this peachy ride and there's no adversity. There's definitely been a ton of adversity at the same exact time, but I've been able to, start certain side hustles. I've been able to do a lot more than just scheduling calendar expenses and what people might think is a typical admin role. I've been able to do a lot more because of the people that I've supported and what they've trusted in me. So that's kind of part of my journey at Google.
So do you always get the famous question of, can you help me understand Google Ads?
I get a lot of questions. Oh my gosh. And I don't even know 100% everything about Google Ads. I need to spend more time actually learning all about it. I work also, I should say, specifically for the engineering team. So when people think that I work for ads, they're like, oh, do you know this person in ads marketing? Or do you know about selling ads or whatever? And I'm like, no, the people who I support just design the ads. They are the technical, masters of it, but they're not selling it. They're not advertising it. They obviously work with those teams, but just my teams that I support alone are over 200 people. So I obviously don't know everyone on, the entire ads business.
So how were you able to transition what you're doing into your now new entities with Learn What Matters and More Than an Admin?
Yeah, so I'm still in early days. I always like to tell people that. And I've really decided to slowly scale versus what, the world tells us that you have to scale right away and you have to succeed tomorrow. And I really kind of thought that whole idea because I felt like that I really needed to focus on getting my personal life in order and who I am in order and making sure I'm ready to succeed. There's so many people that are afraid of failure, and that's totally valid. But for me, my journey has always been afraid of what success will bring. Making a lot of money or having a lot of people know my name or my business being really successful. To be honest, I fear more of what those things could bring in, potential lawsuits, privacy issues, your family wanting your money, all of those things have really scared me. And I'm, working through those. But I started Learn What Matters about 3 years ago. And it's been all about helping high school students invest in their personal development, understanding what that term is. I've done some coaching. I've spoken at different high schools or different youth events. And I started a scholarship at my high school, and we're having the third scholarship winner be announced in a couple months. And so that has been actually really fulfilling for me to be able to do that. And then just last year, what happened was at Google, I was kind of pseudo mentoring a bunch of different people and just having conversations with a ton of different admins there. And then I was like, wow, I should get out of the Google bubble and start having these conversations and trying to help people beyond just the company that I support. And so the last, I'd say year, I've just been playing around with this idea for more than an admin. And it's all about kind of helping, right now at least, it's all about helping administrative professionals be able to discover, leverage, and celebrate who they are, especially outside of their core role, and to fulfill their purpose and have greater business impact. And trying to get not just assistants to see themselves beyond, an admin, but also getting the world. There's so many negative, I feel as though, perceptions of what an assistant is, or a lot of times people don't realize that all of us, not even work-wise, sometimes I get a weird rep because people are like, it's okay to just be an assistant now. I'm like, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying that all of us inherently are things outside of being an assistant. I'm a woman, I'm a daughter. I love plants now. I have back home pets. There's so many other aspects of ourselves. And I think sometimes in this role, when people work with you, they sometimes forget that you're actually a human being and you're not just a taskmaster. So trying to also help the world really see us beyond that. So I've done some clubhouse rooms. I'm working on a book. I'm working on a podcast. I'm kind of filming this documentary docu-series and figuring out where I'm going to go from there, kind of documenting my journey. So we'll see what happens with all of this. So that's a little bit about each of them.
And so how do you feel, because you mentioned something with the word assistant, and we have had several conversations here. As we told you before, we're all virtual assistants. However, we have titles beyond that virtual assistant. That is just a task that we perform, but we also excel in different areas. How do you feel the platform of the title itself, virtual assistant, can somewhat be derogatory in the mind of other people when they think about us?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know why, I just think that there's this weird stigma around the word assistant that there really shouldn't be. I often wonder, if all of you as, virtual assistants called yourself virtual consultants, how many people would view you more better or think that you're higher quality work just because you have the term consultant versus assistant? I've always wanted to see if people play around with different words, what would happen. Even at Google, we don't really I don't think most people, there's a few rarities, but most people call themselves administrative business partners or executive business partners. And I've definitely, when people meet me and they want to know, a lot of times people that are not in the assistant community are like, oh, what's that? What's a business partner? Versus in the assistant community, people often know that it's probably an executive assistant. And I tell a lot of people, I'm like, it's a fancy word for executive assistant. It's just that Google has taken a stance on, we want people to know that we are business partners. That's part of our role at Google. But for me, I think it's sad. I don't think that people should look down on the word assistant. And I wish that that people had more positive feelings about the word. And for me, I personally don't look down on anyone. I don't think that if, I hear the word virtual assistant, I'm thinking, oh, these people aren't part of their team. This is a lower quality. I don't think any of those things. And I try very hard that wherever I'm in spaces, especially on Clubhouse, that people know that if someone has the word assistant, you should respect them as much as the people that they support or the people that they have access to.
Wow, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Ladies, you all have any questions or?
Well, I have a child that's screaming in the background, but I just want to say real quick. So is it fun? Do you enjoy working at Google? Is that fun?
Definitely fun, a lot, but I will also say it's also a lot of hard work. You know, they give a lot of perks, but it also sometimes comes at a cost, and there's also a lot of expectation. So when someone wants to work at Google, I always tell them that you have to be ready for the scale, the speed, and the pressure. Because if you make one mistake, you can cost the company billions of dollars. You can impact billions of people's lives, because our products touch billions of people's lives, and our products make billions of dollars. So I had someone probably a year into when I started working at Google who used to say, if you don't schedule this meeting, you're going to cost us $1 billion. And I told my boss afterwards, he's like, Mallory, you should like put this on your performance review. Every time you schedule a meeting for this person, count up how many billions of dollars you've saved us. And so now I always joke with people that like, I'm the reason why Google's making billions of dollars because of the meetings that I schedule. But some people, like I send out emails that go to 1,800 people every week. I'm in charge of these design reviews that every single new feature for a search ad, I schedule meetings that every single new feature has to get approved in these meetings. So technically, these meetings do generate a lot of billions of dollars from Google's revenue. If I make one mistake, 1,800 people are going to know about it, and a lot of high up people. Now, for me, I have the personality where I'm like, I'm from Jersey. Like, I don't get offended that much. Like, you know, if you're going to get mad at me, I can go right back at you, and it doesn't bother me. But some people come into Google and they make one mistake and they have like 10 people reach out to them, like, what did you do? Or blah, blah, blah. And they get very nervous. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job. And so I tell people, you just have to be ready for that. So yes, there are a ton of perks. I mean, I miss being in the office sometimes because there is a gym, and I used to get like a massage, and there was tons of different perks that you have there. But I always tell people, like, if I got a massage, I'd be working like that hour or whatever I took afterwards. So I always used to make up my hours in some way. So it's not like I'm like working 2 hours a day and just having fun. I would just work later, work earlier. But for sure, a lot of fun, a lot of flexibility often. And I'm really grateful for that. And that's kind of the reasons why also I haven't left.
So with that being said, do you find that, because if you were to compare it to another entity that you worked at, do you find that the flexibility and the engagement, because your job can be stressful, that they try to give you all a warm, open environment so that you can do exceptional work, that you wouldn't make a mistake with one E? Do you find that work better in corporate America as opposed to the tight, stiff, you clock in at 8:30, you go to lunch at 1, you come back at 2, you clock out at 5:30, and then we see you again tomorrow?
Yeah, so the company that I worked at before, I mean, I definitely learned a lot from there, and I have no regrets from working, but it was much more traditional, and I was constantly trying to say that to them. And this was like 5 or 6 years ago now. I have been saying, like, you need to modernize your workplace. You have, like, if you want millennials, especially in Gen Z, to start working here, it's not like you have to have ping pong tables all around and it needs to be like, you know, this crazy environment, but you need to have some more like flexibility, and you need to have like better internal tools, like a lot of things that people that are younger are looking for, in my opinion, at least. And they were a little bit more rigid. And I'd say for me, working at Google, because it's so modern and it's very not traditional, I've loved it. Again, Google's not perfect. There are definitely things you read about in the news. I've like definitely experienced certain hardships at Google, but I will say it's still one of the best places to work. And that is a huge reason why I haven't left. I mean, there's so many resources. I tell anyone, like, you can't complain about certain things that Google does, because they do try very hard. Again, nothing's perfect. And I tell people, if you think that's another thing I tell people, if you want to come work at Google and you think it's going to be perfect, it's not. Your bubble's going to be bursted very quickly. Just like in any place, even if you're in the perfect relationship, you're still going to get into a fight every once in a while. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing at Google. There's over, I think, 100,000 or 200,000 people working there, between temporary vendor contracts and full-time, it's like its own city. I mean, there's good people, there's bad people. And I still feel as though that at the end of the day, I've been very proud to work there, especially with the opportunities that I've had, even working with young people, especially trying to invest in the younger generation. I've had a lot of opportunities to do that because of Google.
So Mallory, you look pretty young. I mean, what does it take to get on at Google and do what you do? I mean, did you have an extensive resume before you came in?
So for me, I only had 1 year of experience. I worked for a CEO of a healthcare company, and I tell people that the only reason why I got my job is because the job only needed 1 year of experience, which I did have. And I had supported a big CEO where I was like traveling all the time, and it was another Fortune 500 company. So I was trying to not work for a CEO and work for lower level directors. And so I fit all the requirements, and I knew someone close to me at the time that could refer me. And they looked over my resume and they wrote me a referral, and that was kind of how I started my journey. But my resume had to go through 3 rounds of just the resume review. I remember being like, what? Another person's reviewing my resume? Another person's reviewing my resume? Like, when am I going to interview? And then I went through a serious round of interviews, a lot of them, and they were very difficult. It was not easy. I tell anyone that if you get referred, it's not like, oh, you're getting referred and you're definitely getting the job, because there are so many checks and balances. I mean, I've referred many people and not everyone has made it through. So it is definitely a rigorous process. And there's so much, I would say, like, I did a lot of things to make sure I was prepared. Like, I read Work Rules, the book. I read How Google Works, because I thought that it was really important to understand the culture so that I could incorporate those into my answers. And that's truly why I think that I made it through, was I just knew so much about the culture, and I had a lot of metrics in my answers because Google is such a metrics focused company. And I think if you do those 2 things and you just bring very positive energy and you showcase what you've really done, again, through metrics, I think that you'll be okay.
You know, it's funny how when you think about it, people tend to forget that the way to any job, no matter what it is you need to know who you're going to work with. You need to know some type of information about how they do business, what type of business they have. It doesn't matter if it's an entrepreneur or a Fortune 5 like Google. You really still need to know how to be able to connect. So that's great for you to mention that, because I think those are some of the things. I know many of us on here are entrepreneurs. However, there still are people who still go to regular, and they need to remember, you need those resumes. You need good conversation. You need to do research. You need to investigate the company. You need to know what you're going to be doing and how you can be an asset to that company.
Yeah, and anytime I take a random phone call, I try to answer all my LinkedIn messages. I'm not always the fastest one to respond because I get a lot, but like, I do try to answer everyone's LinkedIn messages or schedule at least a phone call. And for me, the number one thing I'm looking for is someone brings positive energy, good energy. That's always the number one. The second thing is that they've done their homework. I hate, and I will use the word hate, getting on a call with someone who's looking for me to help them in some way, and I have to lead the conversation. Like, they don't have any questions. They're kind of just like, tell me about Google. And then they're like, can you refer me? Or what can I do? And I want someone, and this is where you make yourself really stand out to, I think, me and a lot of other people, is if you come with very specific questions and you show that you've done the research. So it's like, I've read these articles online about Google and I've seen that there are X, Y, and Z, and I really would love for you to touch on that. Or, you know, here is my resume and I have these metrics. Do you think this is enough? What do you think I can do potentially more in this role for, in my current role for this position? There's certain ways to really lead the conversation instead of it. Like, sometimes I ask myself, like, does this person really want me to speak for 30 minutes and they're not going to say anything? Like, I can do that. I love to talk, but it's just not an engaging conversation for me. And sometimes I just don't love just like talking to someone. I want someone to really lead the conversation and show like they're serious about this. They can be in a room and they can be in a meeting and really lead a meeting. That's kind of a lot of times what I'm looking for is, can you lead a meeting? Are you going to be a leader? Not just being very passive and wanting someone to just tell you everything. So those are two big things that I always look for when someone jumps on a phone call with me, beyond their like, resume, their experience. But you can find people with a lot of the same experience. You can't find a lot of people with that interpersonal skills, and really the non-tangibles. So,
I remember one time at work, I had to do a meeting, and I came in and I was like, just because I'm silly like that. And it was like, really? I was like, because y'all are all sitting like this.
Jen, you come into every meeting like that. I don't care who the client is. So just keep it all the way real. Talking about one time I came in. No, ma'am.
I was the one in charge of this particular meeting, but everybody was sitting there. It was an internship meeting, and I was the coordinator. So I guess they must have thought all they was in trouble. But they were just, oh my gosh, please relax a little. I mean, we are in a professional, but have a little bit of fun. So I just like, nah.
Exactly. You got to keep it fun. You got to keep it fresh. I always say to people, you have to want to like really be in a meeting. Like you have to make the meeting worth going to. If you're going to sit there, and this is even speaking engagements, like a lot of young people say, how do you like figure out how you're going to be a speaker or whatnot? Like I try to think to myself, is someone going to be bored out of their mind and want to leave, or just be like, okay, what time is it? I want to get out of here. Or are they going to be like engaged and have fun and go home and be like, wow, I listened to Mallory today. And so I love that you do that. Sometimes I have to be the one that like breaks the ice in my meetings, because a lot of the engineers that I work with are extremely introverted. And sometimes it could be a little bit awkward because I am the only one that's like, hey, everyone, and like, let's have some fun. And they're all looking at me like, oh my gosh, I hope Mallory doesn't call on me. Like school, I feel like sometimes, but I mean, I don't know. I tell them all the time, like, do you really just want to sit and all look at each other and not have anything to say? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just not my style.
Well, I just want to thank all our viewers out there. Hey, Mama George, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Mal is here to discuss whatever you need to help you leverage your virtual assistant role, because we do want to, you start off as a virtual assistant, but of course there are different areas that you can launch into, whether it's owning your own agency, being an OBM. There are very different assets, and you're in the virtual assistant industry, but there's several more things that you can become. A Google ad specialist. You can become a StreamYard specialist. You can have your own podcast. So don't let the word, virtual assistant hone you into a cubbyhole. Broaden your horizons, and you're only going to do that by leveraging your role. So then that comes with study and understanding. So how, on an average, how I don't know if you can guess, but if there was 1 billion people in the world on a day, how many of that billion would you say have touched Google in some form, shape, and fashion?
Oh man, I feel like I want to get that stat because I'm very curious, but probably a lot. Because when you think about all the Google products that there are, it's just like G Suite, so Calendar, Docs, all of that. Then you have even like Google Maps, and if anyone uses the app Waze is a Google-owned product.
Oh.
You have Google Search, which many people use.
There's Waze.
Yeah, there's Google Shopping, there's Google Travel, there's Google.org. That's like a huge thing that I don't think a lot of people know about, like Google for nonprofits.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, Google.org is like their corporate social responsibility arm, and they have Google for nonprofits. We also have, what is it? We have Google Digital Coaches that do free different webinars for people from underrepresented groups in tech to help them. It's all about like business. We have Google for Startups. We have, there's tons of different, Google, G Capital, I think it's called Google Capital. That's the VC arm. I mean, there's so many different parts of Google that I don't think people realize, that there are different, again, products or events or different places. So I'd say out of a billion, I definitely probably say at least a couple 100 million of them probably definitely touch some kind of Google product. I mean, even just a Pixel phone, that's also something that people have. And I will say I have a Pixel for work, and then I have for my personal phone, I have a Apple. And for me, because I like to keep it real, I love my iPhone for integrating into different apps, but I love the Pixel camera better. And I love the actual like holding of it. I didn't think I would like there's like a touch button on the back. And at first it was very awkward for me, but then I like loved it. I think it might be an older version now, but I actually really like the Pixel, but I don't know if I'd ever switch out of my iPhone for full time, if I'm keeping it 100%.
So what?
I was just showing real quick. This is google.org. I've never been here. And you see that there is a challenge. It did think it just, ended, but there's grants and so forth. So this is like something we definitely want to check out for sure. Google.org.
And as Google for startups too. I would, if anyone has a startup or something, I would highly recommend, and Google Digital Coaches.
Google for startups.
Yeah. I don't know if they have a page, but it's definitely also grow with Google too. I don't know if they have, I'll find out the information. Grow with Google is another one that people might want to look into, because people now can get like Google certifications to be like a project manager or something to add to their resume.
Yeah, nice. And you said that there was some webinar series they had for people of color startups, and they gave me free coaching on something just for going to the.
It's called Google Digital Coaches. Now I'm trying to look it up.
Okay.
I can find. It's with Grow with Google. Let me send you in the chat. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yeah, here's the site right here, Meet Our Digital Coaches. Cool.
And they usually host in person or virtual workshops.
Nice. Wow. We'll definitely share these links and check it out. Nice.
This is great information.
For sure. Nice. Thank you.
Well, we got to get you a workshop, Mallory.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I actually have a hard time sometimes with G Suite in the sense that I am a part of a lot of different, we call it dog fooding. So it means that you could be part of like the beta testers. And I sometimes am automatically put into the calendar and mail dog fooding stuff because I'm a high user of those two products. And so sometimes I don't realize that the features that I have, no one else has. So I'll be telling someone that I know, like, just do this feature. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, don't you know it's right here? They're like, no, you're using like the enterprise high level thing that we've never seen before. So sometimes I have to remind myself when I'm talking to people, I have to use my personal laptop and really make sure whatever I'm telling people, it actually exists in the real world.
So G Suite, is it Google Workplace now? Or?
Yes.
Okay, Google Workplace.
Yeah, sorry, it's the same thing.
Got it.
I have to remember that they changed the name.
So do I.
I know Google's always changing. They have like 8,000 different chat, different products. But I still have to always rep Google. And I will say that before I came to Google, I was always Team Google. I worked in Microsoft products for that year and like 3 months that I was at the company before, and I hated it. I could not wait to get out of Outlook for me personally. And so when people you're just Team Google because you work there, I'm like, no, I was Team Google for a very long time. Like during college, my freshman year, I started using it and I loved it. And even though I probably should learn Microsoft a little bit more, I'm always Team Google right now.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I first came in, when I switched over into the industry, I was like, oh no, I'm going to stay with Microsoft. I love Microsoft. Oh, Microsoft. Baby, I'm now Google girl.
I love it. I love it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with Microsoft. You know, people can own that, but I think it's easy, like more user friendly. I do think Microsoft has some more features, but I think Google's easier to use if you're just like trying to start with stuff. I think it's easier.
I agree. I feel like Google gets the job done. Yeah, Microsoft has a lot of stuff, but it just gets the job done, you know?
Yeah.
That's for me. I like to keep things very simple.
Yeah.
Like, even I'm not like a super Sheets master, to be honest. Like some people at Google, they know Sheets so well and they do 8,000 different things. And I'm like, it would take me more time to put all those fancy features in. I only need to know a couple and just keep the Sheets very simple. And I've never had any person I support ever tell me you don't do a good job with Sheets. And I really do not know it. That's something actually on my list that I kind of want to level up a little bit, but it's never inhibited me from my job. And I tell a lot of people the technical stuff is very important, but I think sometimes also it's just learning how to really communicate and work well with different executives, entrepreneurs, business leaders, politicians, whoever you support. So many people have told me I just like working with you because you communicate well, you have good energy, you care about me. They are just like, that's really like what I'm looking for. And then I can, put you in a class, I can teach you the technical stuff, but it's again, all of those other skills that sometimes you don't have time to teach someone how to write an email, how to communicate really well with them.
So what would be 5 key pointers that you would give someone to begin their process of leveling up their virtual or leveling up in any entity in their business?
I think the first thing, and I say this in like 99% of my presentations, is you have to become very self-aware. And I say this because once you are very self-aware in what you want in your, being an assistant, who you are as an assistant, when you get really honest with yourself. And I give you, for example, I am not a morning person. I'm trying so hard to become a morning person, but I am not. And so if I were to if an executive were to want to work with me, again, virtually or at a company, and they were to be like, I would need you to be on between 5 and 8 in the morning because for whatever reason, they need me then. I would be even if the job was like, let's say paying a ridiculous amount of money, I would be setting myself up for failure because I would know that every day I would be miserable. I would probably miss a meeting here or there because I hate waking up early. And so I think a lot of times you have to be very honest with yourself on who you are and what you have to offer and taking on the certain executives or certain clients that you want to take. So that's like the number one thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is you have to get very good at adapting. I think that something with me, again, that I think executives have liked is I have definitely tried to adapt. That does not mean that you have to change your entire self. I still feel as though I bring my entire authentic self to work at the best as I can. But it means like if an executive really wants you to email a certain way, and it's not gonna, cost you anything or it's not gonna bother you too much, but it might be a little bit of an inconvenience. Why not do it that way and try it and see if it would work? So I'd say being really adaptable is important. I'd say figuring out how to deal with triggers or like interruptions. For me, I think being able to, again, for certain things that are interruptions, how do you not get distracted by them, or how do you not get bothered? Or if someone's messaging you 1,000 times, how do you not freak out? And I think the other thing is things that trigger you. I've been through different, trauma in my life. I'm sure everyone who's watching has their own story. And there are times where I have been triggered at work and I have to really figure out how do I not get triggered? Not saying that it's okay or not, but how do I make myself be able to still work, to still operate, and to not let whatever's triggering me, even if it's very innocent, right? Someone says the name of an abusive ex that I had, and it really triggers me and bothers me. How do I not get into a panic state where I can't work for the next hour? And I think it's very important because I see sometimes people at Google or even anywhere in the work, they get triggered and they don't know how to deal with it and their work suffers. So I've done a lot of work with trying to figure out what can I put in place to make sure that if I'm triggered, I have a plan in place so that it doesn't derail my entire day or my productivity. The fourth thing I would say is get a community. I think that, you know, Janet, like what you do with Bianca and other people on Clubhouse is amazing and great. I'd say get a community, especially outside of where you're working. Get other people's perspectives on how you can level up with your business or supporting the executives. I think that's super important. And then the last thing I think is just understanding that, again, you're more than your assistant role. You're beyond that, and making sure you really establish that with the teams that you support, with the people that you support. Don't just have meetings and don't just talk about the work. Even if it's one sentence saying, again, I'm a new time plant mom, like something that just reminds them, hey, I'm a human being at the end of this. I'm a human being at the end of the day, because I think sometimes people need the reminders, sadly, and I think it will give you a stronger relationship with the people you support. So those are the 5 tips that I have for you right now on my mind.
That's really important, the knowing your triggers thing. I have bipolar disorder, and I am very in tune to when my medicine's not working or my mood is shifting, and my boss is too. Because he'll be like, okay, Nakia, are you sure you need to take some time off, or are you okay? Because he'll notice that either I work a lot quicker or I'm not working at all, or I'm coming in late. And he'll be like, do you need some support? And my whole team is like that because I have schooled them on how to help me with my triggers. So definitely knowing what issues you have so that you can help you have your team support you is really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that people don't talk about that I think is really important beyond our work. Like that is really important just for life, is really knowing what is going to trigger you and being honest or with yourself, potentially with your manager, potentially with your team. I'm very open with a lot of people about things. It's not everyone's style. I never think that people should just be open to be open because of whatever reason. You have to be ready for it. You have to be ready for what can come. But I choose personally to be very open about certain things. I struggle with different mental health stuff. I've been in an abusive relationship. I've been through a lot of things that I feel as though for me, I want people to know so that if I act a certain way or if I have to, again, take a day off, they understand why. And I have a plan. Like people don't realize doing these speaking engagements are very difficult for me. I've been sued before. A lot of people don't realize that. Someone did not agree with something I said from my past because I was telling a story, and that person sued me. And I won my case and everything's all good now. But like going through that was extremely triggering for me. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, if I say something that someone in my past life, like for example, if I were to say something about like the first company that I was talking about, I don't know if they're going to react, and me saying that they're not that they're more of a traditional company. Someone could get pissed off and say whatever they want. And so when I do these speaking engagements, I have an entire pre-game and post-game routine that I do to make sure that I'm fully prepped mentally, and then afterwards that I don't have so much anxiety about it.
So how do you think? I know we know that shortly the George Floyd verdict will be coming to the forefront in just a few moments or so. I know the conference started about 4:30ish. How do you feel that will make an impact on Google? Like, are there certain things that you all, when things like this are occurring, that you all prepare for? And then do you all have like a system that you run? Because of course, people will be looking for pictures and things, and because now they'll go back and reference social media. Is there a certain system or thing that you all deal with when things like this occur?
So what I would say is, I wouldn't say every single event, not every single thing that happens, but I would say that managers and leaders know a lot of times what's going on, definitely not all the time. And I don't think there's any company-wide policies on if there's a major event, this is how we're going to react to this. I think it's very localized, very team specific or manager specific, and sometimes just personally specific. And so I don't know, I wouldn't be privy to that information. What I would say is Google is definitely a place where I think that there's a lot of different ERGs. There's a ton of different groups that you can be a part of, and different mental health resources, which if something does trigger you, right? Like we're talking about triggers, or something is very upsetting, or something is very big that's happening. Like what happened at the Capitol building earlier this year, things like that. There's things in place where if you don't want to, if you can't work, or something that you can tell your manager. But I would say as a company, there's a lot of different people that like email threads will start. I've been a part of different people that will send blast emails to different groups. They have people sometimes come in as guest speakers afterwards to kind of do like a community support. A lot of times I see with different groups that they want to have someone externally kind of come in and facilitate something. But I wouldn't say that there's anything company-wide that happens, or any policy. And a lot of times different leaders will address certain things via email or in a team meeting, an all hands type of meeting I've seen happen. And I know before we started, I said, like, for me, it's very important to me to be an ally to, you know, all different underrepresented groups. And I take being an admin very seriously, or take being an ally very seriously, specifically in being an administrative business partner at Google. And I really tried to get as many other people to be allies and see how important our role can be in influencing leadership, different policies, what Google supports. I really take that very seriously. And I think that a lot of other admins, I've been trying to get them to see it that way as well. Because I do think we, as administrative professionals at Google, have a lot of access and influence, and especially to, again, leadership, that we can make an impact. And I know that I do that a lot with the leaders that I support, and trying to make them stronger allies as well.
Mal, I don't think everybody knows what an ERG is. Can you explain?
Oh, sorry. It's an employee resource group. So at Google, we have a bunch of different ones. We have like Graglers, we have the Black Googler Network, we have Women Act, we have OLA, we have oh my gosh, I'm forgetting a bunch. We have one for Christian Googlers. We have the Juglers. We have a bunch of different ones for the Asian community that I'm totally forgetting the name. Unfortunately, I'm blanking on that.
I like the Juglers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But we have a bunch of different, so they're different affinity groups of people that feel as though that for underrepresented groups, that people can have different events, that people, there's different policies that those groups, that the leadership of those groups try to influence at Google. So for example, when you search something, if you were to search something and something inappropriate or something racist or homophobic or something that was anti-Semitic came up, those groups often advocate on behalf of them to try to get it to be fixed. And I've seen some very intense threads on when things in the media happens, those groups are like on it in a second. They're like, what the heck is this? And they're really advocating. And I've seen, honestly, a lot of allies also message those groups to say like, hey, I've seen this happening in the news, or this happened. How can we help? How can my team help? Again, it's not perfect. I don't want to say like Google's this like place that's super perfect. It's not, but there are definitely those resources for people.
Wow. I think we've had a phenomenal conversation today. I have surely been enlightened about just different things and aspect of what I thought Google was and what Google really has to offer, and just how you've used your platform to leverage, you know, yourself and your business, and how we can use that in our businesses. Today we are sponsored by none other than Go Kiss.
GoKiss.social is our social media scheduling platform. You can find it at GoKiss.social. That is the website address. It is $25.99 a month or $279 for the year. I don't know what else you want me to say. I have one more question for Mallory. I wanted to ask her, what do you think we can do to further more than an admin? In that I'm an administrative assistant. I'm also a virtual assistant working in my side hustle on the side while still working, so that people get rid of the stereotype that's holding us back.
Yeah, so right now I have these clubhouse rooms, and people have been very aggressive with me on having. They're usually 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays. But I am trying to get myself to have an earlier time as well for people in other parts of the world. I've honestly just been in the midst of a cross-country move, so I've been telling people that like launching this has been, again, a very slow journey. There's a lot coming up, but I didn't want to overwhelm myself. So probably starting in 2 weeks, there will be 2 different times. So people can join the clubhouse room. I would say just stay tuned, because I'm going to be launching my website very soon, and it should be www.morethananadmin.com. You can find out more information on like my personal website, which is www.ilearnwithmal.com. That's also one of my Instagram handles as well. And I'll be announcing a lot of the launches then. But I'm trying to start like this pledge. I want to get a couple of big people in different positions to take this pledge and saying that they see the assistant role, again, no matter what industry you're in, as just more than an assistant, and to agree to invest in their personal or like their assistant, whether it's personal, executive, whatever they call it. And I want to really put a lot of pressure on different people to take a stand on this, because I really do believe it's an important movement. Not, again, just for us to see it, but for the world to really see us as more than that. Because, you know, to be honest, I had a interaction with a family member not even that long ago that basically told me like I would never be a servant, I would never be on someone else's time, and like totally talk down on my role. And my mom is like, tell this person how much money you make, and tell them how much influence you have, and like all the stuff that you're doing. And I'm like, I know, like I was shocked that someone that like in my own family was like, you're basically not really having a real career. And I didn't mention this earlier, but some of the other things that I do, I just want to say this very quickly, is I am I have a 20% role, program manager role, where I co-lead this program that we invest in community college students in New York City right now. That's really focused on Black and Latinx students and trying to get them to have resources in STEM. And I lead the mentorship portion of that, where they get a 1-hour monthly session with with a mentor at Google. And then they also have different programming and different events, and they have a community of these students. And it's a really amazing program that I would have never been able to do that, because it costs a lot of money to invest in something like this at other places. And I'm really proud that I have this opportunity, something that I wanted to do for a long time, to really help a program like this. And I work with a couple other people in different parts of Google. But I'm like, I do more than, again, just schedule. And I think the world needs to know that, that a lot of us do that. Again, whether it's at work or even in our personal lives. I mean, there's so many people that are moms that I'm like so amazed that are moms and are assistants, because I don't even know how to take care of a plant right now. So anyway, you can stay up to date on my personal websites. That's where I'll be announcing things, or on my social media platforms. And I really appreciate you asking that question.
And just like how we're discussing about leveraging your business, you know what? You can leverage yourself. You can join us at our VA World Conference that's occurring just a month away. Now, we only have a few, maybe 10, maybe 5 more days for early ticket, what's the word? I'm tongue-tied. Early admission tickets. However, you can still join us thereafter. It's a totally virtual conference now. We will be there to make sure everything is facilitated, but it's virtual. So you can take the time one weekend, leverage your business by listening to these great speakers and all the information they have to offer. Please don't hesitate to sign up at the www.vaworldconference.com. We look forward to seeing you. Join us then. Well, we only have a few more minutes left in the show. Mallory, we thank you so very much. I'd like to close the show by definitely telling everyone, no matter what the verdict that's today, please remember to love your family, take care of your family, and still love each other. We still have to coincide in this world, and we cannot coexist or live together with hate. We'll see you on the next time of Saltable. Remember to like and subscribe. See you soon.